No-kill cropping is interesting because it sits out on a completely different branch from all other cropping approaches and methods, in that it does not rely on simplifying the resource in order to grow a crop. It actually rests on the relationship of complementarity and complexity to drive production. No-kill cropping has 5 principles to it. 1, sowing is done dry. The second principle is it must be done with straight running coulter equipment, so therefore we are not tilling the ground or disturbing the ground. The third principle is no chemicals, herbicides or pesticides. The fourth principle is no applied fertiliser, because we're not seeking to shift the grassland beyond where it wishes to go. And the fifth principle is good grazing management to ensure that plant cycling of nutrients continues to feed the soil, which underpins this whole system. So we're in a no-kill paddock here, and we've stopped here to just show you a broad variety of all sorts of different classes of plants that are both summer and winter growing. So the wide variety of things is providing a whole different layers of not only structure above the ground but also decomposition. So there's not just short-term cycles here. We've got longer lived cycles of different compounds being produced by the plants and degrading at different rates. All of that is feeding the ground and provides the basis for future plant growth. Our change in cropping regime to no-kill cropping, one of the biggest parts and foundations of that was we changed our grazing management. And that started to give us more diversity in the paddocks. So we adopted an attitude that if we were going to keep diversifying our paddocks via grazing, then we shouldn't have a cropping system applied to it that took away that diversity and simplified it back. In this grassland, it has never been ever put to tillage implements, never been put to the plough. 2 years ago, we applied no-kill cropping in here to act as a demonstration of what can be achieved without actually taking the grassland backwards, which is the really big key here, that you can go cropping and still retain the grasslands. We started our grand change in cropping regimes in 1995. It happened partly by design and partly by happenstance, that we put together our machinery in a dry part of the year and gave it a test run in the dry conditions. We saw that machinery placed the seed quite effectively into the existing plants without disturbance before the other plants are reacting, and an analogy is that they get a 10-metre start on the 100-metre sprint. So we're standing at the rear of a modern air seeder with double disc straight running coulter units, and they're designed to disturb the soil as little as possible going over it. So little disturbance for the soil and little disturbance for your hip pocket as well, because it's easy to pull. On the economic side, it's an extremely low cost operation, so usually in the range of 10% or less of the conventional cropping system in that area. In terms of grain yield, it will always be less than the conventional comparison in that area. Usually the rule of thumb is something like 1/4 to 1/3 of the grain yield. But the one thing that out-yields conventional is the total biomass, which can often be 30 or 40% more over the whole year. We've always got plants there that are going to function whenever there's moisture and temperature that's suitable, so we're always going to be making use of whatever climatic events we get. We've put this in for an ultra low cost, and we've got all the rest of these components, so the animals will like coming to this smorgasbord. We can graze this crop at whichever stage best suits us on a whole of farm basis. It doesn't preclude you from using paddocks. In fact, it starts to give you more and more choices than you had previously. During our journey of applying no-kill cropping and enhanced grazing management, a number of things have come out that we've added to help magnify the benefits of those two basic approaches. We've planted over 320,000 shrubs and over 200,000 trees, and it's an important part of the additionality to grow actually more on the grass layer, where we make money from cropping and grazing enterprises on this layer. But the shrub and tree layer provide the basis for more growth here rather than less growth. So even if we just had a cropping focus, that is essentially a long-term solution to nutrient return and nutrient availability, because it's not only what those plants bring to the surface, but also what they're encouraging in the soil biome underneath, which spreads right through the grassland. When our animals are travelling across the top of the ground as well, the way they behave is inherently important to how they impact the soil, not only in what they consume, but where they deposit the nutrients and how they actually physically impact it with their hooves. We need to work on stress-free stockmanship and then self-herding, because as much as possible we want animals to harvest vegetative material and return the nutrients to that position. If they're eating it and then going and depositing their nutrients somewhere else, effectively we are robbing off parts of our paddock to go to other places. So all of those things mesh in together to maximise soil and biological health. If I was starting again, I would encourage myself as a young person to always keep experimenting, but keep your experiments cheap and practical, but lots of them, and always keep on a path of constant improvement. I don't believe in best practice. I believe there is always a better practice.